we're Ask a Pennsylvania Dutchman. We started a YouTube channel under the same name where people would send in questions and they'd ask our opinion, or more of his opinion, as an old PA Dutchman.
Old? What are you talking about, old? Nah, come on.
Well, you're getting there.
Yeah, I got
You're catching up. But, yeah, so they'd ask his opinion on topics, and so we had topics ranging from...
That was kind of full of us to start that way, because we really didn't know if anybody wanted to know what we had to say or not.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
But son of a gun, people started sending us questions, and then we're like, alright, well, we'll keep going with this. And we've done 50 videos now to this time, and I thought, well, maybe we should take this show on the road.
Yeah, so for the one time only, we're doing
So
that.
one time only, either we flop or we don't. Or maybe we flop or we do flop, I don't know. But the one key to this show is that what we do online with our videos is that it all depends on the questions that people send us. So we're going to need some audience participation today. You know, I think what the Cultural Center, what Patrick was talking about, and what the Folk Festival does is so good because it brings information to the people. But you gotta know where to go to get it. And that's the great thing about our video, is that we can sit in my basement without any pants on and nobody knows it, and we can make all the videos we want to make, and we can get information about our culture and our language and our history out to anybody in the world that's got that internet thing. So
we're going to start you off with some questions. We went around today asking people asking for questions to a PA Dutchman, and we're going to give you an idea of what kind of questions we answer for you. So today we're going to start you off with, let's try a good one.
Now this is not scripted, so if it sounds like it is, then we're doing a good job.
Alright, so we're going to do, well, first off, why don't we start with some heritage. Why should I learn the dialect?
My question would be, why shouldn't you learn the dialect?
And I agree, yeah.
Yeah, it's a big question, you know, the dialect, our language, Pennsylvania Dutch, everybody is always crying, it's dead, it's gone, it's never coming back.
I'd say it's a trade language in Pennsylvania.
You know, we always talk about English in this country, and that's important, don't get me wrong, you can't do anything in this country without English. But did you know that Pennsylvania Dutch has been spoken here in colonial America since 1683?
That's about when you were born, eh?
No. What's all the old jokes today?
Oh, you're getting gray beard.
Take your hat off and show 'em how much hair you have.
You don't do that.
That's
the next
it
show.
only works
That's
one way, right?
Show.
No, but one of the big things that Chris and I like to do is show the importance of why the dialect is important to learn and why we still have it around. And I think the biggest part is, for me, as a young Pennsylvania Dutchman, I was lucky enough to grow up in a family situation where all four of my grandparents spoke Dutch, and I got drug along to the grocery store and to the bar room here and there and to the fire company picnics, and everybody was speaking Dutch back when I was a little kid. So for me it was just, well, that's what it is, you know? And as I grew up and as I moved away from home to go to school and so forth, then I noticed that, hey, not everybody in this country speaks this language.
By the time I got old enough, I was only getting yelled at in Dutch, so it was a one-way conversation.
Were you a bad kid?
No, it must be the evolution of the language, I'd say.
Is that how languages work? They start out nice, and then by the end, then they're always just yelling at people.
Oh, just for me. Yeah.
Just for you, anyway. No, but you know, when I moved away and then I started doing work in the dialect, I really felt this connection better than anything else. Our food is important, and our art is important, of course, but when it comes down to it, the language is what glued us as Pennsylvania Dutch people together for 400 years here in this country, 300 years in this country. And I think for our culture and for what it means to be Pennsylvania Dutch, if we lose the dialect, then we lose a major portion of who we are and what we are as Pennsylvania Dutch people.
What do you think the first and last things that we lose as a culture are?
Well, I think one of the first ones always is language, sadly, but that's the way it is, and the one that always hangs on the most is food.
Well, why is that?
Well, because it's delicious. Have you ever had stuffed pig stomach?
Who hasn't? There's
a lot of people that haven't. You know, I've traveled all over the world and I talk to these people and they said, what do you like? What's your comfort food? Everybody always says meatloaf and macaroni and cheese and grilled cheese sandwich tomatoes. Well, that's stupid. The food that makes me feel home. Diefenbach potato chips are pretty good, yeah, but stuffed pig stomach.
Well, I remember when I was a kid, we had this party at school and we had to bring in a dish. And so my dad and I and my brother, we were sitting at home, we were putting together a stuffed pig stomach and sewing it all back.
Take to a party.
So I took it to school and nobody ate it.
Did you have to explain what it was?
I had to explain what it was, but you know, I think the idea of it being a stomach turned kids off of it.
I wonder why.
Well, if you knew how delicious it was, you wouldn't be saying
well, that's the problem. Ask the audience, how many people out there have had pig stomach? Oh, look at that!
Hey,
Look at
we
that!
got about a 50%. We got a. Where's the pig stomach stand? Is that?
Yeah, is there one here at the Folk Festival? There should be, if there should be. For those of you that don't know what pig stomach, we got to remember there might be people out here that don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah, they're Dutchmen in training. So.
Dutchman in training, we'll leave it at that. Stuffed pig stomach is one of the most cultural, iconic foods of the Pennsylvania Dutch, and it's exactly what it sounds like. We take the stomach out of the pig, and then we reuse it. Because us good sparsome Pennsylvania Dutch people, we don't throw nothing away.
We were the first to recycle.
Yeah, this whole idea of, what is it, farm to table and all this stuff, oh, it's all hip and trendy in Brooklyn and all over the country. By doing it better, we've been doing it for 400 years. When you raise a pig, and when it's time to go, well, you don't throw nothing away. Everything gets used. Maybe the tail not so much, because it's just curly.
Oh,
you know,
people laugh too.
but maybe. But you take the stomach, for those you don't know, after you're done butchering, and you scrape the inner lining out, and then we make one of the best meals that you can possibly make out of it. You take potatoes from the farm, you take smoked sausage from that same pig probably, yeah? And then some celery and carrots and onions and some herbs and spices, and then you stuff that in there, and it gets into a big stomach like this, and you can sew the end shut. And then you bake it, or you boil it. There's two different methods. And then, now this might sound disgusting, I know. You look in the pot, like something smells good in the kitchen, you go out, you take the lid off, and there's this stomach boiling away. But you gotta get over that whole mental thing. Because once you slice into that baby and that steam comes up, why, it's like floating on Cloud 9. Am I right or am I wrong? See? Cloud 9 on pig stomach.
Alrighty, so
I don't even know what the original question was.
I don't. Well, we were talking about.
That's the problem. We do these videos, and half we start rambling on one thing or another, and then we don't know where the heck we started from.
That's true Pennsylvania Dutch for you. So, would we like to open it up to any questions?
Yeah, at any time. If anybody has a question, we'll go on it.
Throw a hand up there.
If not, it's going to be a short show.
This is our first.
That's what my girlfriend in high school always wanted anyway. So
this is our first. Like audience-determined show because you get to decide how long it is. If it's terrible, you just tell us to get out of here.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it was.
You know, like Scrabble. Do you know what Scrabble is?
Oh, heck yeah.
No, not everybody.
All right, well, Scrabble.
Do you know what Scrabble is?
Well, it's the best mystery meat in the world.
Why do you say mystery meat?
Nobody really knows what it is.
Is it better that way?
It's tastes better. Yeah, absolutely. It's like pig stomach. People would eat it and love it if they didn't know
what it was.
Yeah. I think. By the time Scrabble came around, the Dutch had learned not to do that anymore.
So Scrabble, for those of you who don't know, so we're going back to bit butchering. This poor pig isn't done yet.
That's where the tail goes.
That's where the well, you can throw it in there. So when you're all done butchering everything that you can, well then whatever's left, the scraps, we'll call it that, they all get cooked together in a big iron kettle. And all the meat comes off the jowls from the head and all. I know it sounds disgusting, but it's delicious, trust me.
This is the R-rated show.
This is the R-rated. And then you add a bunch of stuff to it. Cornmeal, various herbs and spices, and it turns into a pudding eventually. Sounds great. Meat pudding. We should make t-shirts that say that. Have you tried my meat pudding? That'd be good. And then you can eat it warm like that. Raw, well, not raw, but fresh cooked out of the kettle. But what most Pennsylvania Dutch do is then they put them in pans. They'll ladle it into pans, and then it'll cool and it'll get hard. And then you can cut it, and then you pan fry it. And let me tell you something. It's brawn. You don't have to know what's in it. It's delicious. And there's two schools of thought now with your Scrabble. I think there's two teams here with Scrabble. Either you're a ketchup person, or you're my wife, I don't know, she's a maple syrup person or a Scrabble.
You don't ever switch back and forth.
No, my house right now, Lincoln said, a house divided shall not stand. But when it comes to Scrabble, my house goes right down the middle. Because I'm a ketchup person on my Scrabble.
Oh yeah, me
but
too.
My wife, she likes everything sweet, but then she puts syrup on. But hey, I found a woman that eats Scrabble, so I should get a medal for that. But there's not a lot of them out there anymore, you know? She didn't even ask what it was. She just said, I'll eat it. I was like,
knew better.
She knew better, that's right. So that's what Scrabble is. It's pan-fried. It's traditionally eaten at breakfast, but it doesn't have to be. You can eat it any time of the day.
Hey, do you remember that joke about the pigs? Now that we're on the pig.
The pig joke.
Yeah.
I got a lot of jokes about
the two
pigs.
city boys.
Yeah, these two city boys, if you don't mind, I'm going to tell a joke. These two city boys came up from Philadelphia here, and they said, we want to buy a pig. This is, this whole, we want to get organic stuff, because in the city, everybody's all about this organic stuff. What they don't know is we've been living that way for 300 some years. We are the trendsetters of this country, and we never get credit for that. But anyway, that's another topic. These two city boys come up from Philadelphia and they come to some farm out here in Eckville or something, and they buy a pig, they buy 2 pigs. And they load them in a truck and they're going back to Philadelphia. And down the road, the one says to the other one, "Hey, whose pig is whose?" And they quick stopped the truck, and the other guy said, "Geez, I don't know. How are we gonna figure this out?" Because I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna nip the top corner of the one pig's ear off, and the one that's missing the corner of the ear, that's mine, and the other one's yours. Sounds like a good plan, they said. So he goes back, takes a pocket knife off, chops a little bit of the ear off, down the road they go. Well, after a while, these pigs start fighting down the road, and they're going like hell there in the back of the truck. And there's this rumbling the whole truck, and they quick pull over, and when they get out to look in the back of the truck, why, the pig that had the cut ear did the exact same thing to the other pig. Now they both got corners off their ears.
Is that with his own pocket knife?
No, he was fighting. They were fighting. And then they said, "Oh my God, now what are we gonna do?" They said, "I don't know, we're gonna have to drive down the road a little farther." So they go down the road thinking and brainstorming, and they can't figure it out. And the other one said, "Stop, pull the truck over." Both of them have nips out of their right ears. I'm gonna go back and take a nip out of the left ear of the one that has the 2 notches, that's mine, and the other one's yours. And the other guy says, "That sounds like a great plan." So he goes back and does it. They go down the road. Well, the pigs go at each other again. They're not even out to Montgomery County yet, and these pigs are going crazy with each other. And the trucks are rumbling, and they pull over. Son of a gun, didn't they fight and bite the other ear off? Now they're really screwed. Now they don't know, what are we gonna do? So they get back in the truck, and after a while they're driving down, and the one guy goes, "Hey, I'll tell you what, let's make this easy. You take the white one, I'll take the black one."
So is that pretty indicative of PA Dutch humor, you'd say?
In what way? Because we made a joke about a pig?
Or we're making fun of city folk, too.
Well, we make fun of city folk and jokes about pigs, yeah. You know, a lot of the humor of the Pennsylvania Dutch, a lot of historians will say we have a very earthly humor, meaning a lot of our jokes sometimes are a lot about farming and agriculture, but also about, you know, the roots to the home, like pigs and so forth. Pigs were a huge part of our culture. So, you know, a lot of our humor isn't very funny to someone that's not Pennsylvania Dutch.
Well, they just don't have a sense of humor.
That's right, they just don't have the right sense of humor.
Anybody else have any good PA Dutch jokes out there?
I got tons if they don't.
We want another one of those, alright.
These 2 Amishmen were driving down the road in their buggy, and he was hauling a big load of manure out the back. And they get to this crossroads out here at the end of Kutztown. This old guy was sitting on the bench in front of the bank, and he was stopped, and the Amishman stopped. They had a stop sign there, and the guy said, "Hey, what are you going to do with all that manure?" And the Amishman said, "Well, I'm going to put it on my strawberries." The guy said, "Gee, that's really funny. I put sugar on mine."
That was a groaner. You know one in Dutch?
A joke in Dutch?
Yeah, tell me a joke in Dutch.
Well, now you put me on the spot.
Let's gewissel Duits now.
Oei.
Don't hurt yourself.
How many out there can understand the dialect? Because I can... alright. Okay. Laugh, okay? So the people that don't understand think it's funny. Es war 2 alte Mannslei und sie waren am Hackerhofen bang vor am Old Folks Home, ja? Und der eine hat gesagt, "Ei, jammer je, ich fühle mich so alt, mein Buckel tut weh und ich kann nicht mehr laufen." Und die andere hat gesagt, "Hoi, ich fühle mich wie ein neugeborenes Kind." Und der andere hat gesagt, "Was? Wie kann es sein? Du bist 80 Jahre alt, wie kannst du als ein neugeborenes Kind fühlen?" Und der andere hat gesagt, "Jawohl, ich habe kein mehr Haar, ich habe kein Zeh und ich glaube, ich habe gerade in die Hose geschissen."
Now, for those of you who didn't understand that, that's your cue to start learning some dialect now.
Now that's a good joke. Maybe we should translate that.
Okay,
These 2 old guys were sitting on the front porch of an old folks home, and the one guy said, I feel so old. My back hurts. I can't walk right anymore." And the other guy says, "Gee, sometimes I feel like a newborn baby." And the other guy says, "How can that be? You're 80 years old." And he goes, "Well, I don't have any hair anymore. I lost my teeth, and I think I just crapped my pants."
I'm gonna be thinking about that all day.
What, crap?
Yeah, so we got a question.
Since you're talking about that, what's your experience with outhouses? Did you grow up with one?
I am glad you asked this question, because you know what? Now listen, I'm gonna go a little on. I'm going all the way on this one, and I don't care what anybody says. You know, a couple of weeks ago, this country was all up in an uproar about transgender bathrooms and whose boys are gonna go here and we're gonna be in the bathroom and there's gonna be a woman walking. And I thought that's the stupidest thing I ever heard. Because the Pennsylvania Dutch have had transgender bathrooms for 400 years. The outhouse didn't say men and women. Hell, Heck, I knew an outhouse that had 2 seats in it, so you could encourage a person next to you.
When my dad was a kid working at the farm, he said there was a 7-hole outhouse, and that thing was always full.
Were women in there too?
Oh, everyone was in there. Old
Yeah, I mean, everybody poops. There's a kid's book about that out there. I mean, you know what?
They said the old people get the one closest to the door, so they don't have to walk.
They don't have to
all the way.
walk as far, but sure.
Same with the bunks. They'd have 7-story bunk beds, and the old people get the bottom.
Get the bottom
young
bunk.
kids on the
Yeah.
top.
You know, my family belongs to a hunting camp up in central Pennsylvania. We have an outhouse there, and so I get to use it regularly. And it's quite peaceful, and you never have to worry about forgetting to flush, right?
Alrighty. So, anybody else got any questions?
Now come now.
Come on, Mr. Pottiger. Vet du öppet fråga?
He answered it already. It
Oh,
was about
dang.
Scrapple.
What else is
Oh, here we go.
You were talking about scrapple and pig stomach. What about souse?
What about it?
Well, you see the gods, I'd say.
Yeah, maybe. Sauce, that's another great food item of the Pennsylvania Dutch. Now this might really turn you if you don't know what it is. Ma'am, you know what sauce is.
Yeah, my dad loved it.
But what was it? What is it?
It's like a gelatinous stuff with meat in it.
Doesn't that sound delicious? Meat and jelly
Meat jelly?
and sour? Don't know about all. You know, I'll tell you what, and this, again, it goes great with beer.
Everything does.
Oh, now be careful now.
Red meat, eggs, potato chips, sauce, Scrabble. What doesn't go good with beer?
Well, maybe it's just what doesn't go good with Pennsylvania Dutch food.
Nothing.
Yeah, sauce is another thing that we didn't want to throw anything away, so they took scrap meat and compressed it in with a gelatinous type of, jelly, and then that's usually eaten cold. It's cut into little squares, little cubes, and it's made with a vinegar, sour sauce. Boy, it's delicious. But yeah, it's one thing if you see it in a grocery store, you'd probably turn your nose up for sure.
No, I don't think I've ever seen that in a grocery store, actually.
But you gotta go to Dietrich's Meats. We're not being paid by Dietrich's Meats here, but you should go down to Dietrich's Meats, you can get sauce there.
Alrighty, so I'm gonna move us on.
Kudelfleck in the dialect.
No, that's Italy.
Oh, that's, yeah.
Kudelfleck is a pickled tripe.
Yeah, try it. Boy, that's another good thing.
Alright, so one of the people we were talking to today asked about what does Dutchman think about this Brexit, the British exit from the UK?
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, if you've been following the news, Britain just last week decided they didn't want to be part of the European Union anymore. They came up with this fancy term called Brexit. And I was thinking to myself, you know what? Maybe it's time for a Pedexit. Pennsylvania Dutch exit.
What are we exiting from?
Well, but exit from this craziness that we have in this country.
Our own
sometimes.
sovereign nation?
Yeah, we'll just take Northampton, Lehigh, Berks, Lebanon, Lancaster, York, and maybe a couple other counties we'll let in, and we'll become our own little country.
Well,
We already got a flag.
What about the Dutchies out west?
Well, they gotta move home.
You're out of the club unless you come back to keep.
Don't you think we have our own language, we have our own culture, we have our own food, our own
economy,
art?
best workmen in the world?
The problem is, and what most people don't know, is that the Pennsylvania Dutch played a huge role throughout the entire history of the United States. Did you know that when the British were invading Philadelphia during the Revolutionary War, who hid the Liberty Bell from them?
The Dutchies.
The Pennsylvania. Every answer to my questions is going to be Pennsylvania.
Thanks for that.
The Pennsylvania Dutch hid the Liberty Bell. Did you know who developed the first major modern means of mass transportation so that people could push west into the frontier?
No, who?
Pennsylvania Dutch
Oh,
did with
yeah.
the Conestoga wagon. Did you know? What else do we want to know?
Kentucky rifle.
Yeah, the long rifle of the frontier and of the early colonial times. You know who developed that?
Not Kentucky, I'm guessing.
No, the Pennsylvania Dutch.
Oh, why don't they call it the PA Dutch rifle?
I guess we wouldn't have enough money
That's
for the
people
rice.
stealing it from us.
Well, these things happen, you know. It's what are you gonna
See,
do?
that's another thing. You said we don't get enough credit for anything.
Do you know in the Civil War there were entire regiments of Pennsylvania Dutch?
What were they called?
Did you? Soldiers. What the hell kind of question is that?
Well,
What were they called?
anything else?
Did you know that the Pennsylvania Dutch were one of the first major ethnic groups to fight against slavery?
Yeah, actually.
Oh, good. So you do know something.
Yeah, I was hanging around with you for a while.
Did you know that Pennsylvania Dutch soldiers during both World Wars were used as translators and interpreters against the Germans?
For the Germans?
It wouldn't have worked so well against the Japanese, so we had to use them against the Germans.
Is it for the Germans when they're speaking underwater from a submarine? Well, PA Dutch kind of sounds like Hochdeutsch, but underwater.
Who told? Where did you ever hear that from?
Well, if you just listen to some Dutch, you'll hear it.
I never heard it that way.
Oh, what? Yeah.
You're talking about how outsiders hear us.
Yeah.
That's a good question a lot of people don't understand. Well, if you're Pennsylvania Dutch, are you German? Or are you German because you're Pennsylvania Dutch? Well, what the heck's Pennsylvania German then? We hear that term too thrown around about. Well, you know, it's a difficult topic to discuss, but I'll try and make it as easy to understand as possible. So even you can understand.
All right.
So, Pennsylvania Dutch, we are people that came traditionally from Germany in the 1700s. The problem was, if you go find a map of 1700 era Europe, you're not going to find no Germany anywhere, because it didn't exist. There was no Germany at that point. There was all these little kingdoms and dukedoms and principalities and all this stuff. But William Penn, he liked to make money, and he knew that he had a lot of land to sell, and he thought, well, we'll go to these German people. Maybe they want to get the heck out of Germany. And he sent his agents up and down the Rhine River and up and down the Neckar River valleys of Germany in the 1600s and into the 1700s and said, hey, come to Pennsylvania. I don't care if you don't speak English. I don't care what religion you are. I got land for sale. Come on over. So a lot of German immigrants then decided this is where we're going to go. So they left Germany, got on a boat, went up the Rhine, got to the Netherlands, the present-day Netherlands, got on another boat, came across the ocean. And the reason they all settled in Pennsylvania, these people, why aren't there Pennsylvania Dutch in South Carolina? The answer is it's too damn hot. But, no, because William Penn sold it. William Penn sold it to these Germans. And then they came here and they established themselves, and because they were kind of an island of themselves here, they didn't interact much with the other English colonials and the Scotch and the Irish. They really kept to themselves. They started agriculture, farming, and so forth. And that's why the culture and the language continued to be passed on from generation to generation. They didn't marry outside of the Pennsylvania Dutch culture very often, especially in the beginning. You know, they were mainly Lutheran and Reformed of faith, and of course we had the sects like the Amish and the Mennonite and the Brethren and so forth. But they all come from this southwest corner of Germany, present-day Germany, and a little bit of France and the Alsace region, and some from Switzerland as well. But that's where this whole idea of, well, are you German or not? Well, actually, no. We're our own group. We are Pennsylvania Dutch. We had all these different regional people come together, and as they came to the United States, the colonies, they melded together into one group. All of the various dialects melded into what we have today. And that's truly why, and a lot of historians are really saying this now, the importance of it. We are the oldest and longest and great, well, I'm not going to say greatest, I think greatest, but oldest and longest ethnic minority group that still holds on to all of their original cultural values 400 years later. Think about it, you know, the Irish that came over in the 1800s and the Italians that came over, they kept some parts of their culture, but they lost their language, they assimilated into the society a little bit
part
better.
of the stubbornness of the PA Dutch?
You're darn right we're stubborn. You should be. This problem today with this country is everybody just... no one wants to fight anything anymore. It's just, well, okay, that's the way it's going to be, and that's the way it's going to be. Walk right over me. Well, that's a bunch of hooey, and you know it. Because you got to stick up for what you believe in, right?
Even if it's not right.
Well, it's always right.
If you believe it long enough, it is.
Well, sure. But, yeah, that's, you know, so, then here's another just side bit. Why is it Pennsylvania Dutch? Because a lot of people see that and they think, well, then you're from the Netherlands, because that's where the Dutch people are from. But we don't wear no wooden shoes and we don't have a bunch of windmills all over the place. But the reason the term Pennsylvania Dutch is used is because, and here you have to pull out an old dictionary from the 1700s. If you look up the word Dutch, it referred to anything that was of Germanic origin. Well, that's where all these people were. And the colonials called them the Dutch people. Sometimes they did refer to them as German, but there was this idea of what a German was, because there was no Germany. There was no German. You were Hessen, or you were Baden, or you were Württemberger, or one of these other clans and so forth from over there. So the term stuck. The problem was that as time marched on, well, then the definition of Dutch changed to this region of the Netherlands now. But us being stubborn Dutchmen wouldn't give it up. And I don't think we should either.
No, we're going to keep that one. So one of the questions a lot of people have is they say, what about PA Dutch transplants? A lot of PA Dutchmen or Dutch women leave their home area and they lose their accent. And this is a game I actually played like I would tell my dad we're going on a road trip, but I can't let you know where we're going. And so I'd put a blindfold on.
That sounds like you kidnapped him.
Well, kinda.
You shouldn't kidnap him.
He doesn't hobble too fast, so it's
okay.
easy. But you put a blindfold on. Try this with your resident Dutchman at home. Just pick one, take him on a joyride. And so what happens is, when you're far away from where they were born, they lose their accent. They start speaking kind of like normal. And then when they get closer, the accent gets really thick. And so even if they don't know where they are, this works with you too. Whenever we're up in Howard, you kind of lose your accent. But every time we get back downtown,
it's
like
the magnetism in the ground.
Yeah, it's like a Dutchman positioning system. You know, it's like
GPS. I know I'm getting close to home and I start saying "ah" instead of "out." Is that what it is?
Yeah, you don't even have to see anything. You just
No, I just feel it. It's like a voice from above coming down.
Well, how far are we?
What's the point of this story now?
Well, I'm just thinking. Well, how far are we from your place now? If
From where I live now, about 2.5 hours.
2.5 hours. Well, from
Ours.
Ours.
Yeah.
See, we're getting close to where he grew up now.
I just over the hill over here a little bit.
All right. Well,
But I still don't understand what the question was.
Well, I just think a lot of people want to know about the Dutch transplants and why it kind of disappears, but it's kind of
Why, it's natural.
it's undercover Dutch now.
Undercover Dutch.
Yeah, it's like when you're in.
So we're sending people out undercover
They
for
gotta
what?
blend
What
in a
for
little.
reconnaissance? What are they bringing information and back to us?
Oh, we're gonna start our own.
Like
nation.
what? Oh, we're starting our own nation. We got to send these people out.
Pedexits.
Pedexiters.
Yeah. Does anybody have any other questions?
Yeah, please. We got to move on.
Yeah. Here.
Where's some of the idioms come from?
Idioms.
You say Dunhaven or Hoenspoena. Where do they come from? Because the literal translation doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Well, that has. The question was, where do we get some of these phrases that we say in the dialect? And you know, phrases and idioms are unique to each language, no matter where. And a lot of it always have to do with the heritage and how you grew up. A lot of our idiomatic phrases have to do with farming, because the majority of Pennsylvania Dutchmen were farmers, if you go back in time, or worked in handcrafts. And also part of it is stuff that we brought back or brought over from the old country that stuck with us. You know, I use this phrase "dunavera" a lot, and a lot of people think, oh, that must be a swear word. And well, in Pennsylvania Dutch, it kind of has the connotation of a swear word, but it's the funniest swear word when you think about it, because it translates into thunderstorm. But that's, for us, that's a good exclamation or a good exclamatory point if something's not going right. Ai, dunavera. And yeah, it sounds kind of stupid. If you're in English, things are going bad, and you smack your thumb or something with a hammer, you say, oh, thunderstorm! It just doesn't quite happen. But let me tell you, I don't know where. That feels right when you say it.
And the better you are at it, the longer you can draw out the word.
Donavera nochmal. Then you can throw nochmal at the end, which means once again. So it's not just one thunderstorm, it's a bunch of thunderstorms coming.
You gotta punctuate it with the knock 'em all and start it off with an ah!
Ah, yeah, well, yeah, you can do that.
Well, what are some of those other ones we keep learning from all the old books, the Pfeffergefatz or whatever? Part of the pepper. What's that one? Or Rode the Bake Oven.
Oh my God. Okay, yeah, that's a phrase in Pennsylvania Dutch. Sie hatten de pepper gekvatst, which literally translates into she farted in the pepper. I used that in English one time and the lady looked pretty funny at me. But that's the literal translation, but when you use it in context, it means the girl messed up. Traditionally, it was if a girl got pregnant before she was married, and she farted in the pepper. I had a girl in my senior class, she farted in the pepper twice. Yeah, it's a funny phrase. Where that comes from, I have no idea. Well, it's old though. It goes way
Wasn't
back.
that the same with Rode the Bake Oven?
I don't know that one as well.
Not the Bake-Off-Gerichte?
But what's it mean?
I thought that was when somebody messed up too. Oh, they rode the oven. They really messed that up.
Coulda.
Am I wrong? Does anybody else know that?
I don't know that phrase, but
Oh.
that doesn't mean it's not true.
Well, I'll believe it long enough and it will be.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
What does Hiba Haba mean?
Ask the audience that one. Who out there knows what Hiba Haba means? Well, tell us. Shout it.
It's an agricultural assistant.
An agricultural assistant. Is that the politically correct term for that these days?
It's
CalMatch.com.
What was that? CalMatch?
Cowmatch.com, is that out there? I've never seen that website yet.
I'm sure it
There's
is.
a lot of websites out there. Is that, who else can help for a definition of Hiwa Hawa?
Right here.
Hey, there we go. Stimulus.
Try Hiwa Hawa Java. Stimulus package. Well, Mr. Claypool, how would you really translate Hiwa Hawa?
You know.
Yeah, but I don't want to say it.
Sounds like everybody's a bit shy.
That way, if I run for office, that'll stick to me forever if I say that in public. Kevin, what do you say for Hiwa Hawa?
Someone who gets seeds to plant, but from a horse.
Get it? Catherine the Great. Was she a Hiwa Hawa? Some people say she was. Hey, it gets lonely on the farm sometimes at night. What are you gonna do? Thanks for asking that
Next
question.
question.
But yeah, we better move along. This'll get X-rated after a while.
Yeah, I won't ask us back next year.
Either that or we'll have to do it later at night.
All right, let's see if we can move on here.
Go anyone out to have a question. And they can be serious too. We'll answer them the best that we can. We don't have to be stupid all the time. Although we're better stupid.
Are you fancy Dutch or plain Dutch?
Well, I'm pretty fancy.
What's the difference?
Oh, good question. What's the difference between fancy Dutch and plain Dutch? And I made note earlier about like the Amish and the Mennonite, the sectarian groups, which that's a whole nother discussion. But there became eventually, especially in the 1950s and so forth, as people started to market Pennsylvania Dutch land to tourists and so forth, we had to make a delineation, a difference between the plain people, the Amish, the Mennonite, the Old Order Brethren, the River Brethren, etc., and then the non-plain people like the Lutheran and the Reforms and some of the other Christian sects. And they came up with these words plain and fancy because the plain people dressed plain. Black coats, you know how the Amish dress and so forth. And the fancy Dutch, well, we dressed fancy. We dressed with the times, so to speak. And then you can also talk about means of transportation. The plain Dutch stayed with horse and buggy, where the fancy Dutch moved on to cars and tractors on the farms and so forth and so on. So that's where those terms come from, plain and fancy. I'm fancy. At least I think so.
All right, so...
Any other questions? Now, come on now. Don't be shy.
Hey, we got one over here.
Can you tell us about the bell cycle?
The bell
It's actually
schnickel.
on my list here.
Was it? Who gave you that question?
Must have been her.
Maybe. So, we have Patrick Dunmore. Is he still here? Well, I'll misquote him then. That's all right. He won't hear me. The Belschnickel, I think, is one of the great. It's an awesome part of our culture. So every Western European culture has some kind of gift giver at the Christmas holiday season. And most American kids grow up with this idea of Santa Claus living at the North Pole and he's got his elves and all this stuff. And it's pretty happy. I mean, you write him a letter, you put out cookies and milk, and then the next day you come down and there's a whole pile of presents for you. No matter whether you're bad or not, you know darn well Santa Claus is going to bring you something. But the Pennsylvania Dutch kids, well, they didn't have it quite as easy. Because we have this character known as the Belschnickel. And it comes from traditional European culture that we brought over. And there's multiple ways of having him described, but generally was a guy that wore a fur coat, had furs on, and a mask, or had his face painted. And he kind of was the yin and the yang of Christmas. He was good and bad. And traditionally, back in the 1800s, someone in the local town would dress up as the Belschnickel and then go from farm to farm. And now imagine you're a 6-year-old kid, and the whole year long your mom and dad have said, now you be good or the Belschnickel's gonna get you. And it's a little scary. And then this guy shows up with his face all painted and fur coats and sometimes antlers on his head. And he would come to the house, and if you were good, but you were never good. And there's a reason for that. When the Belschnickel came, you'd tell him what you wanted for Christmas, things like this, or he'd ask how you did throughout the year. And no matter whether you were good or not, he'd swap you with a switch up the backside. And then he'd give you a small gift. Now, what does that teach kids?
PTSD?
That's pretty good. I look at it this way. I think the Belschnickel's great because I don't care how great a kid is throughout the year. There's no kid that goes a whole year long without messing up or doing something wrong, right? Even you, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's important come that holiday season that someone reminds them, because we know what parents are like these days. Son of a gun, the Belschnickel should come back, because too many parents these days, they let the kids do whatever they want, run all over the place. Kids can't do nothing wrong. There should be a Belschnickel that comes by because that might be the only guy that ever swaps that kid up the backside.
Well, I feel like now we...
No, I'm telling you, have you met a typical kid these days?
Well, yeah, I'm saying now we kind of need it more than ever because you got these kids addicted to their darn cell phones and video games, playing all those 15 hours a day. They had a Belschnickel yelling at them.
Well, you really think that would change it? Maybe. But I'm telling you what, we have this term helicopter parent today. The first time I heard that, I thought to myself, what the hell does that mean? And then I met one, and then I knew exactly what it meant. Her kid couldn't do anything. He wasn't even allowed to put salt on his own food without mom telling him how to do it, or doing it for him. Now where's the Belschnickel there? We need him back. I say we replace Santa Claus completely.
Yeah.
Am I right or am I wrong? These parents these days, I'm telling you, I'm starting to sound like an old Dutchman now, and I'm a young Dutchman, but maybe I gotta sound like an old Dutchman.
Santa Claus was like the starter Belschnickel.
Was the starter Belschnickel?
He was for the wimpy kids. And
Oh, and the Belschnickel's for the real hard kids.
yeah.
Well, I think we should bring him back, that's for sure. Because these kids these days need it.
Well, like I said, with all the cell phone and video game addiction, what do you think about those kids now?
Well, I think they're stupid.
But yeah, it's pretty easy.
They're addicted. That's true. That's no joke. I just got back from a trip. I teach high school, and I see teenagers day in and day out. And we all have our crosses to bear. But anyway, I just got back from Germany. I went to Germany with 16 teenagers. Yeah, how about it? You should have been along. I told them the Belschnickel story ahead of time. They all behaved themselves pretty good, actually. But anyway, anytime we had a down moment, they were on their phone.
Well, even when they're not in the down moment, they're walking by the Louvre or something. Well, I guess that's in France. But anyway, they're it's been a while since I've been over there.
Yeah, anyway. No, it's true. I think it's a real problem.
Yeah, they'll be taking pictures, everything, enjoy their trip a year.
But how do we fix it? How do we fix it?
I thought we just set the Belschnickel up.
Yeah, but I think this is a bigger case than what the Belschnickel could do.
Does anybody have a suggestion?
I mean, we need something.
Like Hillary.
What's that? I didn't hear him.
I didn't either.
Like Hillary.
Oh, yeah.
Is that going to change it? Maybe. But I don't know, that's a problem in this country. You know, Pennsylvania Dutch kids never had cell phones.
I still don't have a cell phone.
That's because you don't have any friends to call.
Yeah, well, you're always around anyway.
That's right, I'm always around. No, but yeah, that's something I'm a little worried about, but I don't know what to do. I don't know. Maybe the Belschnickel is the answer. That sounds like a good t-shirt slogan. The Belschnickel's the answer, no matter what the question is. Or Scrapple. Scrapple's the answer, no matter what. No, we came up with this idea. We wanted to make bumper stickers that said Scrapple is love. But I don't... Wouldn't that sell? I think that's great. Scrapple is love.
Well, it makes sense to me. What was the breakfast meat of champions?
The breakfast meat of champions, Scrapple.
Yeah, start the day off right.
Hey, Doug, tell us about the Dutch name for Scrapple.
Panhaus.
Panhaus.
Yeah. The dialect word for Scrapple is Panhaus. And what's it mean, Kevin? Where do we get it?
Pan rabbit.
Pan rabbit, but there's no rabbit in it. Now what?
Well, it's a substitute for rabbit.
There we go.
You don't have a rabbit,
It's like
so you
Spam.
make pan rabbit.
Yeah, that's right. It's the spam of the Pennsylvania Dutch culture. Don't ever say that again. Who? At the Kutztown Folk Festival, and you stand up in front of God and country and you tell them, Scrapple is the spam of the Pennsylvania Dutch people. You disgust me. I don't think I can do this with you anymore.
That's why I said it's going to be the last show, man.
Yeah, it might be.
So where's that rabbit come from then?
That's to replace rabbit when you don't have rabbit.
Oh, okay, well that's pretty easy. Hey, can you tell us another joke about the pastor, rabbi, and a bear?
Okay, the Pennsylvania Dutch tell a lot of jokes that deal with pastors and priests. We just make, even though we're very religious people, we also like to poke fun at religion and also at people in power and authority. And of course, in small communities, you know, the local pastor was pretty high on the ladder of hierarchy, so to speak. So I know quite a lot of pastor jokes. This priest, this pastor, and this rabbi were sitting in a bar, and they made a bet. They were all going to go in the woods and convert a bear. And they were going to then come back and then to see who did the best job. So about 2 weeks go by and they decide they all meet up again in the same bar. And the priest goes first and says, well, I went out in the woods, I found a bear. Oh, yeah, okay, how'd it go? Well, I sprinkled him with a little holy water, I put a rosary around his neck, said a couple Hail Marys. Boom! Catholic bear. Oh my God, that's crazy, they said. The pastor said, yeah, I kind of had the same experience, man. In the woods, found a bear, and taught him Luther's catechism, and I confirmed him, baptized him. Boom! Lutheran bear. This was so good. And they looked over, the rabbi was sitting there, his arm was in his sling, his face was all scratched up, and they said, "Ay, Yama, what happened to you?" He says, "Well, I went in the woods and I found a bear, but maybe I shouldn't have started with the circumcision."
I could have had a better song.
That would hurt, wouldn't it? All right, let's see. So, let's see. What was another question we had? So we got Belschnickel out of the way. Oh yeah. So, are the PA Dutch frugal? Are we frugal?
Frugal and
I think there needs to be another word in the English language that goes beyond frugal, and then that's us.
It's called PA Dutch.
It's called PA Dutch. Yeah, on the scale of frugality, from 0 being we throw everything away to 10 being frugal, we're at about a 25, I think, the Pennsylvania Dutch. And, you know, a lot of it has to do, again, with the idea that a lot of us grew up with little, living on the farm. We had to make ends meet throughout the year. A lot of our lives depended on how the weather was for our harvest and so forth. But, you know, we Pennsylvania Dutch, we do take it to another degree. You know, scrapple's a great example. You know, we take every absolute possible part of the pig and make sure it gets used up. My grandmother, for example, now she would, you know, grew up during the Depression. That's a whole nother story. But, you know, she would take her envelopes when she'd get mail, and she'd take the mail out, and she'd save the envelopes and then write her store list on the backside. Now, maybe you had that same experience, but you know, a lot of people say, well, that's ridiculous.
I'm still finding my grandma's old grocery list from the 50s.
Maybe that's why she isn't around. Didn't she go shopping?
Not most of the time.
But that's, you know, a lot of people look at us Pennsylvania Dutch and say, why are you, but that's stupid. Why don't you just, you can go to the store and buy a pad with a magnet on the back, it sticks right on your refrigerator, and you can then put your store list on there. But my question then is, well, why? You don't have to. Why spend that money on that stupid tablet made by some little kid in China probably, when you have the envelope right there from the bank, from the post office, you can use the back of that. It makes sense to me, doesn't it to you?
Absolutely, yeah. Well, a lot of people have problems with frugality, and they think, well, those Dutchies are frugal, and I'm like, well, why aren't you?
Yeah.
Think of a reason why it would be.
Yeah, you know what? Most times they can't answer it. You want to know why it is? Because it takes a little work.
And they're jealous.
And nobody wants to work.
Yeah, that's true.
They gotta put their phone down first. That's hard for some people. I saw this one kid on that trip. He was without his... We didn't have Wi-Fi at this one place. Oh my God, the kid started going into convulsions. I said, what's wrong? Did a bee sting you? He said, I can't get internet.
There's no Wi-Fi.
I said, oh, you'll be okay.
Yeah, people are just addicted to technology. Look at that guy over there. He's recording us around.
Yeah, but that's a good kind of technology. Because we're in it. No, but yeah, frugality. We Pennsylvania Dutch, we're pretty darn frugal, and that's something I take pride in, really.
Yeah, I'd say
I'm
so.
not afraid to be proud of that.
All right. Well, anybody have any questions, thoughts, concerns, commentary? Nothing. Oh man.
How long did we talk for now?
I don't know. Was verwacht.
Wait, how many? 7 minutes.
Oh wow. Okay.
I get started, I can't
we got
stop.
a question
That's
back
oh
there.
yeah.
Why do you sound Yiddish, Doug?
Well, it goes back to that rabbi joke, I think.
My condolences.
Well, I'm not. I will attempt. I know a little bit about this from the linguistic aspect. The Yiddish dialect, the language of Yiddish and Pennsylvania Dutch do share some words, some common vocabulary, some common grammar as well. You know, some of the diaspora of Jews in Europe in the 1600s had intermingled and lived among the people that would become Pennsylvania Dutch. So we share linguistically a little bit of some commonalities. Is it completely intelligible to each other for most people? No, but it's not bad. I mean, you can see a lot of things that are similar and between the two languages. It's a good question, actually.
Yeah.
I was talking to my mom about Halsey. She said she used to play Halsey when she was young, but she forgets how to play it.
Well, you send her over to my house and we'll have a refresher lesson. The question about the card game Hawsey, which is the short form for the term is Hausenpfeffer. In fact, I just played it yesterday on July 4th. There's no better way to celebrate America's birthday than with a card game and a bunch of beer on the table. But anyway, Hawsey's a card game that's played traditionally among the Pennsylvania Dutch. I don't know where it originally comes from, most likely from the old country we brought over. It's sort of similar to pinochle in that you use a pinochle deck with 2 jacks, 2 kings, 2 queens of every suit. And there's bidding involved, and there's bet, and you don't, not money usually. There's no money involved, but you bid on your hand. Yeah, I think someone actually asked us to do that sometime, so that's in the future. We're gonna make a how to play Hawsey video. Pre-order your copy now. I know you're all excited, but it's a traditional Pennsylvania Dutch card game, and it's a lot of fun. It can get pretty stressful. It can get pretty loud sometimes, depending on who you're playing with. But it's a great old card game. It is. Yeah, good question.
All right, so we got about 9 minutes left, 8 or 9 minutes. Yeah.
I'd like to hear you sing.
Let's sing.
We forgot our instruments. I forgot. How non-PG can I go here? That's the question. We made a video one time. Someone asked us. I don't even know how we got on that topic, but the word for harmonica in Pennsylvania Dutch translates into mouth organ. Which, to the which you go out in public and you walk around and you say, boy, I really like playing my mouth organ. That sounds kind of, well, you know, I don't have to tell you about that. But the Pennsylvania Dutch word, yeah, Maul. But yeah, we did a video that brought that point up. No, Chris and I we do folk music and we sing from time to time. In fact, we got a concert coming up here on Thursday night, quite a ways away from here. But we take pride, and you can check this out on our YouTube video, our YouTube channel. We write our own Pennsylvania Dutch folk songs. Some that we've translated old English folk songs into Pennsylvania Dutch, but we have a couple that are originals too. And we have some videos on our channel there of us singing some original Pennsylvania Dutch folk songs. Again, we think it's so important to carry this tradition of music along, because music is part of the Pennsylvania Dutch culture. And these old folk songs in the dialect let people know we're still alive, we're doing this, and we're proud of it. We're really proud of it. So, yeah, sorry, but we didn't bring any instruments along today. I don't even have my mouth organ along. I left it in the car, I think. But check out our YouTube video and our videos, and then you'll see some of our songs, our traditional songs on there.
Well, what are your links? You've got the Ask a PA Dutchman, then you got the Dutchman.
Yeah, so if you want to check out here's where the plug now comes in. So my name's out there on the whiteboard there at the entrance seminar tent, Doug Maidenford. If you Google that on YouTube, or you Google that or look it up on YouTube, it'll take you right to my channel. And on there we have playlists. We have Ask a Pennsylvania Dutchman, this shtick we're doing now. We have about 50 videos on there of all different questions. Some things we touched on today, some things we didn't touch on today. And I also, another thing that we do that I think is really important is, since I'm a teacher and an educator, I make a lot of videos on learning the dialect. And I just started a brand new series called Your Pennsylvania Dutch Minute. Each video I try to keep under 5 minutes, real fast, so you can get a lesson. Maybe it's just a couple of words like dog, cat, bird, horse, so that you can just learn a little bit of the dialect. Because believe it or not, there are a lot of people out there, and not just here in Pennsylvania Dutch country, that are super excited and interested in learning Pennsylvania Dutch.
Undercover Dutch, I tell you.
It goes back to that. We get emails from people all over the country, and that's no lie, and then from other countries too, that are interested in learning about us, the Pennsylvania Dutch, about our language. And I think most people don't understand that, and they see that as, well, this dialect's all dying because all the old people just speak it anymore and no kids do. But I really think there's a chance here, using the internet, for us to not only revitalize the dialect and keep it alive, but to push it forward into the future. So all that stuff's available on my YouTube channel. Check it out. It's free.
What about your blog, Doug?
Yeah, every week I write a weekly blog for those that understand the dialect and that can read it. If you search my name, you can find it. There's a weekly blog post. I try to write about anything, really, sometimes historical stuff, just things happening in the news, etc. But that's for someone that can understand the dialect. So watch enough of the videos, then you can go read the blog posts.
Also, with our music, we go by the name Broken Spokes. We're hoping to get into the recording studio sometime this summer and record some of these old Dutch tunes for you. Our performance schedule, I try to update all that stuff because I do music solo, and I also do it here with Doug, and so you can find our performance schedule at chrislarosemusic.com. So I got a whole bunch of lists for you.
We'll do anything. We play parties, private functions, bar mitzvahs, you name it, we'll play it.
Except bear bar mitzvahs.
No bear bar mitzvahs. Anything else before we close? At 1:30, and I have to invite you back, is the annual Writers' Festival here at the Folk Festival, where local writers in the dialect come and prepare a piece and read their pieces in the dialect, and they also provide that in English translation. Another way to show you that the dialect is alive and continually pushing forward in 21st century America. And it's really important to support those people who work at continuing the dialect and keeping our traditions alive.
Cool. All right, well, thank you folks for coming out and sitting through.